At first glance, it's easy to feel that this morning's parable about the rich man doesn't apply to you or me. None of our incomes are high enough that others might consider us to be rich people. In fact, we kind of envy the problems of the rich man in today's story. The poor thing had so much grain that there wasn't enough space to store it all. And so he decided to destroy his barns so he could build larger ones to stockpile his excess. Wouldn't it be nice to have that sort of a problem? To have a wardrobe so large that all your clothes and shoes couldn't fit into your closets. So much furniture and appliances that you had to purchase a larger home to hold them all. So many cars and motorcycles that your garage wasn't large enough to house them. And by the way, if any of you are experiencing these problems in your life, our church will be holding a rummage sale next month, and we would be glad to help unburden you of all your excess while supporting the church's ministries at the same time. For most of us, this parable doesn't seem to apply to our lives. And so we prepare to turn the page of our Bible and move to the next word that God might have to say to us. But wait a minute before you turn that page. God's Spirit might still have something to say to you and me after all. Sure, the man was rich, but that's not the only thing that characterized him in this parable. There are other things too. For instance, he seemed to measure his self-worth through his net worth and his value through his possessions. Does that apply to anyone here? We buy a new car when the old one runs perfectly fine. It's just beginning to show a little wear and tear and doesn't look as nice as the others in our neighborhood. So we tell ourselves that maybe it's time to trade it in for a new one instead of repairing the one we have. Or we struggle over whether to invest in an Apple iPhone 5 or a Samsung Galaxy S3, not because the phone's features will make any difference in our lives, but because they are what everyone else is using to text on, to access Facebook, or call their friends on. To one degree or another, most of us have bought into the myth that more stuff and better things mean we are more successful and better off. And so in essence, we have allowed ourselves to be defined by our stuff and things, just like the man in our text. But he was also characterized by his sense of self-reliance, which doesn't really sound like such a bad thing. After all, independence and self-reliance is what the American dream is built on. Work hard and you reap the benefits of your efforts, right? There's certainly nothing wrong with working hard to better your place in life. But there is something wrong with living under the illusion that you owe nothing to anyone else for your good fortune. In this short parable, the man uses the word I and my 11 times. He is concerned only with himself, and it's not even on his radar to share his abundance with those around him. He doesn't acknowledge the workers that have worked in the fields or built the barns. He doesn't acknowledge the good fortune he has experienced in the weather that has given him this abundance of crops. And he doesn't acknowledge God's role in his life. Everything is I and my. In fact, he is alone, all alone. He doesn't even have a friend to whom he can turn who will advise him on the wisdom of his decision to build bigger barns. The only person he can talk to, the only person he trusts, is himself. A can-do spirit is one thing. The attitude of, I don't owe anyone anything, is an altogether different thing. In fact, it's an illusion, a fool's illusion, and it was the illusion of the rich fool in this morning's text. So maybe the parable applies to us after all. I certainly find myself caught up in a consumerist way of believing that if I can just have a little more stuff, then I will be happy. And I also find myself patting myself on the back for my accomplishments without giving credit to God or the others in my life who have made those accomplishments possible. So maybe I have more in common with the rich fool in the text than I would like to admit. And so if I see myself in this parable after all, then what does it have to say to me? Well, for one thing, I believe it has something to say about how I use my money. Money that I have accumulated because my parents gave me a start in life that allowed for a decent education. Money that is mine to spend or share because of the good fortune I have to be employed. Money that God has blessed me with and to whom I owe my gratitude. In short, money that I possess because of more people than just me. So what am I going to do with this money? Put another way, what is the right use of money? This is a question that our parable never really answers. God addresses the rich man as a fool in the parable because the man's life was so consumed with greed that he could never really stockpile enough wealth. And so we can safely assume that hoarding our wealth is probably not the best option. Jesus tells another parable a few chapters later about a young man who went to the other extreme. He demanded his inheritance and squandered it away on riotous living, as one translation describes it. I think we can also rule this out as the right use of the money with which we have been blessed. A third option is to share what we have to bless the lives of others. In his book, Enough, Adam Hamilton says that our life purpose needs to be bigger than our own personal satisfaction. He says we are blessed to be a blessing to others, and our money and possessions should be devoted to helping us fulfill this calling. In the parable of the Good Samaritan, Jesus describes a man who used his own money to help out a victim of violence. I expect Jesus would have said that was the right use of money. That is what Hamilton was talking about when he said, we are blessed to be a blessing to others. Excuse me. But how that plays out is different for different people. We'll be talking about that after worship today in our discussion of chapter 2 of Hamilton's book, and you're welcome to join us. But it's something we need to give serious thought about. What does the right use of money mean for you in your own life? But I think this morning's text is more than a parable about money. I believe it's also a parable about the right use of time. The rich man in this story spends all his days thinking about how to accumulate enough so he can finish out his time on earth living high on the hog. All this time and all his mental energy was devoted to acquiring enough money and possessions so that he could finally live happily ever after. But that day never arrived. He died before it ever occurred. And so just as there are several options for the right use of our money, there are also several options for the right use of our time. Like the man in our parable, we can live out our days planning for a future that may never arrive, all while missing out on the joy of today. Or we can spend all our energy making sure we are happy today, all while ignoring the needs around us. Or we can invest our time in serving our neighbor. Studies show that investing our time in helping others improves our own sense of happiness and well-being, as long as we don't become overextended or overwhelmed by the helping tasks. When we share our time with others, we develop a sense of community and connectedness, which contributes to our own happiness. We have a tendency to appreciate and feel grateful for our own good fortune. Our self-image is given a boost because we feel useful. And our good deeds can actually produce a chain reaction of more good deeds in others. But how we are to be blessings to others is not spelled out in today's parable. We aren't told how to use our time any more than we are told how to use our money. Those are questions that are left to our own discernment. My hope is that you'll spend some time in the upcoming days thinking about those questions. Consider how God has blessed you and how you can be a blessing to others. Give some thought about what the right use of money and the right use of time means for you in your own life. I believe the answers will play a key role in your own experience of happiness. May God bless you today. May you recognize your blessings. And may you find ways to bless others in the days to come. Amen.